The committee will come to order. It is good to be together. The first hearing of this 115th Congress. I welcome our new members to the committee. It's good to see such great attendance. It's also nice to see a packed house. My prediction for this new year is that energy will be a subject, an issue, an area that will draw great attention. It not only is important here in this Congress, but it is important to our nation's economy, it's important to our nation's security, and the issues that we will take up in this committee are issues that will be front and center moving forward. I am pleased that we've got an opportunity today to talk about energy in a broad perspective, but recognizing that we have members that have other issues in front of them, other committees that they will go to. I want to give you just a brief outline in terms of how I'd like to conduct the hearing this morning. I would like to lay a little bit of the groundwork here for where the committee will proceed in this Congress, not going on too long, but giving you as committee members my focus, my perspective. Obviously, this is a business meeting taking up the Keystone XL pipeline, and so we need to process that. There have been a couple amendments that have been presented by members. I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to get through the business portion of this meeting, but I also want to make very clear to each of you that I want to extend the courtesy to you to make your statements, your comments, not only about the Keystone XL pipeline and the legislation before us, but the committee itself and perhaps your interest with that. So I just wanted to lay that out to you, that I would like you to know that this is not just an opportunity for me as your chairman to have the microphone, and to my partner and ranking member, Senator Cantwell, but to each of you as well. With that said, I will tell you that I am extremely honored to be the second Chairman Murkowski for this standing committee. It is quite an honor and a privilege to me. I've been a member of this committee since I came to the Senate. It has been my #1 priority. When you come from a producing state like Alaska, that's understandable, but it has also been an extraordinary opportunity to come to embrace all aspects of the energy sector, whether it be trying to figure out how we deal with nuclear waste and disposal issues, how we move to a more efficient energy system, how we work to build out our energy infrastructure and our grid security, how we deal with the issues of cybersecurity. There is so much that is included within this energy sector. And it's not just the natural resources that we deal with. It is the other aspect of our portfolio here within this committee that sometimes people forget. The public lands piece is huge, particularly those of us in the West. The territories. We have the senator from Hawaii who has joined the committee, and I welcome her. But I also recognize that as someone from the other non-contiguous states, sometimes our territories get overlooked. This committee has jurisdiction over them, and we will not forget them. I do, again, thank you for the opportunity to help direct our energy agenda for these next couple of years here. And I look forward to working with Senator Cantwell, to have somebody who is our geographic neighbor, so to speak, with so much shared interest between the states of Washington and Alaska. We have a lot that we can be working on collaboratively. I had a very strong collaborative relationship with my friend and colleague from Oregon when Senator Wyden was chairing the committee, and I think we set a good tone for this committee in terms of how we build things and how we work to advance initiatives throughout the process. So having said that, as we embark on our first business meeting, our markup, I think it is a little unfortunate that we've moved to markup first, that we didn't have the opportunity for the hearing that was scheduled yesterday. We had already kind of laid that groundwork. We had invited our agreed-upon witnesses. We'd circulated a background memo that I hope each of you had an opportunity to read and review. It was written by joint staff in preparation for the hearing. We'd already gotten the testimony from our witnesses, the Association of Oil Pipelines, the Center for American Progress, and the Laborers International Union of North America. I submitted on the floor during a colloquy with Senator Hoeven yesterday the testimony from those 3 individuals. That is part of the record. I will also submit for this morning's committee record the testimony of each of those witnesses so that it does become part of that record.
Sorry.
We are here today to consider and to report to the full Senate an original bill to approve the Keystone XL pipeline. The text of this bill is identical to the original bill that was reported by this committee last year on a bipartisan vote. It then fell 1 vote short in the Senate. I think it's fair to say that the world, the country, but also the world is watching the United States to see if we are ready to lead on as a global energy superpower, which I think we recognize we have become. We certainly are viewed in the eyes of many outside this country. And an energy superpower that respects its neighbors and the trade with its allies, builds the necessary infrastructure, such as a pipeline. And I think that the Congress is ready. I think we're ready to send this signal on a bipartisan manner in a way that's strong. I think the American people are ready. But we continue to be blocked by this administration. There is already a veto threat out there, but I don't think that that threat should deter us from our initiative, both as a committee, as a Senate, and really as a Congress. But this long-delayed Keystone XL project is far from being the only energy-related issue that demands our attention today. In my state of Alaska, we've got a considerable oil pipeline, an 800-mile pipeline that's been around for about 35, 40-plus years. It's surrounded by literally billions of untapped oil on federal lands and out in our federal waters. But we appear to be butting heads with the federal government at every step, at every turn, limiting our ability to bring on new production. And what we have seen within that pipeline is that the flow, the throughput has declined dramatically. We're less than half full in that Trans-Alaska pipeline. It's costing us jobs. It threatens our state's budget. It's even prompted the New York Times to write about the economic anxiety that afflicts Alaska. So this is not just Alaskans thinking that we've got some troubling issues. It is being recognized by others outside as well. I think you all know, those of you who have worked with me for a period of time, I'm pretty passionate about Alaska. I'm very passionate about my state. But Alaska will not be my only priority. But having said that, I'm going to be working very hard with each of you to remind you all that we are an Arctic nation because of Alaska and what that means to you, whether you are in Maine. And I welcome my friend and colleague, Senator King, with his interest on the Arctic issues. And the ranking member, Senator Cantwell, also has a very keen interest in how we're going to build out our Arctic opportunities. I think you should expect the committee to devote much of January and February on hearings over a wide variety of issues. One thing to expect next week will be a notice for a legislative hearing to be held probably closer to the end of the month, and this will be on Senator Barrasso's bipartisan LNG export legislation. I think that is clearly an issue that is timely and has been teed up. Other potential topics for hearings include electric grid innovation. This is something that Senator Cantwell and I have discussed at great length. Nuclear waste policy, something that Senator Alexander has been working on with a small group of us, authorizers and appropriators, a very, very important issue, and I want to make sure that we don't lose traction there. OCS development and revenue sharing coming out of Louisiana. Our new member, Senator Cassidy, I think that's something that we will continue to build on the work that Senator Landrieu has done for years there. The administration's quadrennial energy review, which is something that has been of interest to many of us. Critical minerals, and then, of course, the oversight hearings. We're also going to be holding, of course, the budget hearings to consider the President's request. And I want us to get back to the practice where we bring in the Secretary of Energy, we bring in the Secretary of the Interior, and we do it regularly to appear before the panel, not just once when the budget is presented. Now, I've been asked, as I have wandered through the hallways here in these past few days, what are the priorities? What are your priorities? I don't think it's any secret to those of you who have been on the committee. My Energy 2020 book, I'm actually kind of proud of my Energy 2020 book. It is not out of date yet, even though we published it a couple years ago, but it does outline much of my philosophy. And it's pretty simple. You've got 115 pages, but I'll distill it to one bumper sticker for you, and that is energy is good. Energy is good. It's vital to our prosperity. It's a strategic asset that we can use to assist our allies. I believe that it is in our interest to continue making our energy abundant, affordable, clean, diverse, and secure. So there's no acronym there, but it is arranged alphabetically, so you can remember that. But I do think that we should be confident as a committee, confident as a Congress, that we can make progress towards these goals by further strengthening supply, modernizing our infrastructure, supporting efficiency, and ensuring federal accountability. So these four focus areas, supply, infrastructure, efficiency, and accountability, will form the basis of an energy bill that I'm hopeful that our committee will be able to consider. And to that end, I'm going to be sitting down with each and every one of you on the committee to understand your priorities for legislation, both within these four categories and within our committee's jurisdiction and your interests. And then based on that feedback, I intend to assemble a chairman's mark for each of the four titles. Those will then be the subject of legislative hearings, subsequently considered, amended, voted on by our committee, and this is going to be good work. It's going to be substantive work, and it will take work from each and every one of us. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to spend good focus and energy in these months ahead so that towards the end of the spring, we're prepared to actually move on a work product. And I know that this is an aggressive schedule, but I think it's very, very achievable. And as we move ahead with it, I'm optimistic. We're going to find common ground. We're going to find that common ground as a starting point. We know that there's going to be areas that we're going to be button heads on, that we're not going to be able to find that unanimous support. But that's why we engage in negotiation. We conduct votes. We have a process here. We carry out all the institutional functions that are expected of us as a legislative body. And as I mentioned at the outset, we've got to multitask here. And I will just note for the record that it's two women that are leading this committee. I'm not going to say that women are better at multitasking than men, but most women I know are better at multitasking than men. So we're going to help you along here. But when you think about the jurisdiction of this committee, it's more than energy, it's more than minerals. We've got our public lands, we've got water, we've got forestry, we've got grazing, hunting, territories, other issues, and all of them command our attention. Just a couple quick examples as they relate to those. Forest land management reform. We left that on the table in the last Congress. I think we've got to get back to work on it. There's bipartisan agreement that we have to improve the management of our forests, and that includes getting the timber harvest up, something that Senator Wyden has clearly led on. We've got to get a handle on the wildfire problem. We all know we don't want to be waiting for the next catastrophic wildfire. We've got to protect our water supplies and really work to sustain our rural communities. And although there may be a need for some place-based solutions, I think we need nationwide forestry reform legislation. Secure rural schools is another area that I've talked with many of you about. We didn't extend it last Congress, so our communities and our schools that are dependent on that support are watching us closely. So we've got to do right by them. We've got to find those responsible fixes. And then one point that I would be remiss if I didn't mention after our work on the Defense Authorization Bill. This is national park reform, something that Senator Coburn, even though he wasn't a member of this committee, really did some serious review of our national parks. As you know, our park system is going to be celebrating its centennial anniversary next year. This is a pretty historic anniversary to celebrate, but I think we need to recognize this is also an agency that is struggling with multiple systemic issues. So this would be a good time for us to focus on this and send some national parks reform legislation to the President. So throughout all this, I intend to uphold the reputation of this committee that through history has done some very good things. Good for the Congress, good for the country, working in a very collaborative member. Our ranking member, Senator Cantwell, and I think, agree that there are good opportunities for us to be engaging in productive work product that will make a difference for the long term. And I want to ensure that each of you feels that you have shared weight and responsibility as we address the energy issues for our country and our nation. I can promise you that I will never have as long an opening statement as I have just given this morning, but I felt it important to kind of lay out some of where I believe the committee is headed in the next couple of years. And with that, I am pleased to turn to my ranking member, Senator Cantwell, for her comments.